Okay, so we're on day two of Mishlei 1519. We had difficulty with the facts yesterday. All right. I'm pleased to report that I think we have some clarity today. Our plan is going to be, we didn't really get a chance to try out our own approaches, so I'll open the floor for that, but I do have specific meforshim I want to do. Okay, so the pasuk says, Derech atzel ki mesuchas chadek v'orach yesharim solula. The way of the atzel, of the Mishleically lazy fool, is like a hedge or a fence of thorns, but the path of the upright is solula, which is either paved or well-trodden or clean/pure/empty. Okay, our questions were, what reality is the mashal depicting? What are the facts? What's the spatial relationship between the atzel, the derech, and the thorns? Is it a road with a hedge of thorns lining each side, or is there a hedge in the way on the path and you're trying to go through it? Or is the path covered in thorns that you have to walk on? I found a support for all three, by the way. Okay, so we're in good company. What is the relationship between the misucha and the chadek? Two, what is the mashal of orach slula, if it is indeed a mashal, and what's the implication? Three, what do derech and orach mean? Do they describe part of the mashal as the descriptions imply, meaning that the derech in the mashal is kimsuchas chadek, or are they part of the nimshal as the kaf hadimion implies, meaning he has a real derech in him, that's nimshal, but that derech nimshal is like a mesuchas chadek, which is in the mashal. In other words, is the derech external or internal? And either way, is their path the same, but they bring different elements to it, or are they on different paths? If the orach solula is available to the atzel, why is he taking, why is he taking his derech? Okay. 4, what is the definition of atzel? 5, what's the definition of yashar? 6, what are the opposites? On the surface, atzel and yashar are not opposites. If there is an opposite to atzel, it would seem to be either chacham or charutz. 7, do the atzel and the yashar share a common goal, or are they looking for different things? 8, what's the havamina? What's the practical application? 9, who's the intended audience? If it's the atzel, is he going to be able to follow through? And if it's not, who is it, and why does he need this? 10, is there any relationship between this and the pasukim that come before it or after it? So yesterday, the only conceptual progress we made was Sadigon. We reviewed Sadigon's definition of atzlus, which is the compulsive need to avoid all immediate pain and conflict, as opposed to tava, which is the compulsive drive to pursue all immediate pleasure and enjoyment. And I'll add, according to Sadigon, these are the two fundamental, I guess let's call them midah orientations, or I guess fundamental midos. Let's just say fundamental midos, which other midos like express or are expressions of. I don't know if that's the best way to say it. Okay, so we had Isaac's basic approach, which I think is good. The mashal is that whenever the atzel tries doing something, he experiences it as an extremely painful experience, like being scratched up by thorns. And I don't know if this is just in my summary of Isaac, or if Isaac was deliberately not taking a stance on the facts of the mashal, but I think it works out that like whatever it is sounds painful, and so he's gonna like experience this these thorn scratches, meaning whether it is in front of him or on the sides, or what I pictured when Isaac said this. Again, I've got visual imagination here. So I was thinking of the derech being internal, and I'm picturing it. How like Wolverine has adamantium, is it the skeleton, right? So, and it had to be like grafted onto his bones in his internal structure. I don't know. I'm getting, okay. So he I'm picturing it as though the atzel has like a skeleton that has thorn pricks all over it. So if he's stationary, like thorns coming out of it, if he's stationary, he's fine. But once he moves, then internally it like punctures him and wounds him, and that's like, so it's like when I was thinking of the internal derech, it's like he can't move, not because of external obstacles, but because of internal pain that he's causing himself. I know that's not pshat, but that's what I'm thinking of. And then we said also for Isaac, when the yashar wants to do something, there's no pain and no impediments because he has no conflict about the immediate pain involved. Meaning he might experience immediate pain, but that's not going to stop him. The audience is someone trying to get out of derech atzel, but it's really painful. Okay, so I think that's a good general approach. I have no critiques of that. Yeah, you have an idea? Yeah, go ahead.
I think mine's Isaac has.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Isaac, I guess you have first crack at this.
Yeah, just about the audio. I feel like
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on. Since you were not here to say good morning, then I did not do an audio check.
On me for coming late.
Yep. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So just about the audience, I feel like it didn't fully capture what I was trying to express.
Okay.
I think a person might have an otzel who's trying to perform himself,
Yeah.
or someone who has a streak of otzelus, who's trying to perform himself, might be dissuaded by I think it's like, there's a lot of pain associated with becoming not an utzel. I think that pain is not the subject of this pasuk.
Okay.
But it's saying when that kind of like this is like your how it's going to be long term for you, one way or another. Either it's like the bad half of like the way it's long term for you is when you try to move, there's pain because of your oddsness. Another way, when you want to do something, it's just like walking along a clean road.
Okay, so now I'm less clear than I was before. So who's the audience in a sentence?
Someone who's working on their oddsness.
Someone who is working on their Atzlus. Okay. And then now I also heard you say it's not talking about something and it is talking about something. Can you just clarify what those two things are?
Yeah. So the thing that I think it's not talking about is the immediate pain of working on the oddsness itself.
Okay. This is not talking about the immediate pain of working on the Oculus itself. I'm smiling because that's one of the interpretations we're going to do, but that's fine. You're entitled to disagree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's talking about the long term, the like
the road ahead.
Yeah, the road ahead. Yeah.
Okay. If he continues on with his Oculus.
Yeah.
If he continues with his Oculus. Yeah. Meaning that there are certain midos, I guess. I don't know. I'm just giving this as a havamina. There are certain midos that if you can like avoid the negative effects of it. So, for example, let's say you have extreme greed, okay, like for money. But let's say you're not in a job where you have the possibility to advance or to like make more money or whatever. So you're just not going to encounter that bad mita or the consequences or the pain associated with it. But Otzlus, especially according to Sadigon, you're going to encounter forever, unless you get yourself out of it, because it's such a fundamental thing and it's going to manifest in any time you're faced with an immediate conflict. So like it's just going to be a long road ahead of painful thorns. I think that's how I would apply what Isaac is saying.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, all right, good.
I have a question on Isaac's.
Yeah.
He says that when the Yasha wants to do something, there's no pain because he has no conflict about the immediate pain. And then he's saying the Atzel, it's not talking about that?
Yeah, meaning, just maybe Isaac, if you could talk about what is different about the Yashar, such that his path is Salula.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean that, let's say, when he like that. I think when the fact of a situation that the Atzel and the Yashar might be facing might be the same. Like it's like let's say someone's gonna be sleep training their baby. Then like the facts are that it's going to be extremely emotionally painful to be hearing your baby crying.
Mm-hmm.
So the I think the way that the Yashar would be approaching that is, even though it's unpleasant to be for the Yashar to be hearing their baby cry, they don't have the like. It's almost like the pain is like less real to the Yashar because
okay, I like you said that.
Yeah, he knows that it's like that it's just going to be happening for a short period of time, and then it's going to be so much better.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
if I may, no thorns at all.
Okay, if I may quote your mom, okay, and if you or David have a different take on this, then you've probably heard it more than I have. But like this idea is probably the most frequent idea I quote from your mom, which is the pain of stubbing the toe, right? When you stub your toe, it hurts really badly. But if you're an adult, you know that toe pain stubs go away like in a fairly short amount of time, unless you break the toe, and so the mistake people make, but obviously if you're a little kid, it's like the end of the world, but as an adult, like if I ask you, tell me the date of the last time you stubbed your toe and how much you still suffer from it, you're like, what? Even though you've stubbed your toe before. So the mistake though is that people treat emotional pain in the same way, right? Is that there's psychological stubbings of toes, the stubbing of the psychological toe, no, that we react as though this is a horrible damage that's going to last forever, and woe is me that I have this, And so the yashar will to the Atzel, that's how he experiences this pain. It's like a terrible. I can't expose myself to this pain. That's a terrible thing. But to the yashar, he's like, okay, yeah, it's pain, but like it's not going to last. It's not going to really harm me. It's not going to like prevent me from operating, and I know that there's good stuff on the other side, so I'm gonna be willing to go for that. That's how I'm taking this. Is that in line with your understanding of how the yashar processes the pain?
Yes, exactly. And so that's why it's like it's almost like it's the road is just like clear, because okay, maybe when you're walking, maybe sometimes it's like you get a little bit tired or something because you're walking, but there's nothing that like it's just like that's the how there's just
that's the path. That's what it is to walk on the path.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now. This is a really good idea, but I want to move on. Make sure we get to these two ideas I want to say. Yeah, Ezra and then Oren, and then I want to share this.
Yeah. So the way I was reading the pasuk was that the Atzel is not like an Atzel, and the Yashar is not an Yashar, but a Yashar, but it's like the path of like enacts Atlas.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
And like if you do that, if you like take steps of Atlas, then you'll end up when you go onto the path, when you finally like actually go, it won't be treated, it won't be like paved, it'll just be like brambly, and you'll have to work then to like get through it. But a path that like I guess like that a yashar has planned out has already like been paved and
that's interesting. Okay, now I see what you're saying. Okay, so this is not talking about the inner life of the yashar or the atzel, okay, but the paths that they lay out. Okay, if you entrust or if you rely on an atzel to map out a path, it will be kimesuchas chadek, because he's not going to take the pains, literally, right, to clear it. But if you rely on a yashar, he will. So that's interesting. So the audience, that's okay. This is a very creative read of the pasuk, which I like. And so the audience is someone who is relying on another person to chart the course.
It could also be yourself, because like
or yourself. Yeah, right. Like if you like there are people who will, let's say, like okay, I don't know if this is let me just think about this one. I was gonna say there are people who will wait to the last minute to make plans, and because they waited till the last minute, then the plans are filled with immediate inconveniences and pains, and so whether or not you are an Atzel, if the path emerged from Atzlus type thinking, or from Atzel, whatever, then it's going to have these features. Yeah. Right. That's good. Okay. I really like that interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm reading it not like that, more like Isaac.
Yeah.
But just with a different understanding of what the mashal exactly is. So I'm reading more like way the Atzel is like a fence of thorns, but the path of the upright is empty.
Yeah.
Meaning that that the way of the Atzal is like they have a path.
Yeah.
They're fenced in by thorns.
Yeah, right.
So they can do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Meaning, so if you're a lazy person, right, you can do stuff. It's not like everything you do is impossible. Like there's plenty of things you could do. Right. But your options are severely limited.
All right, that's good.
Whereas if you are a Yashar, then you can do whatever you want, basically, because you're not afraid, you're not bothered by potential, short-term.
Okay, so
problems.
this is not a fence in the sense of an impediment. Okay, but this is like the sides of your derech are fenced with thorns. So in terms of your default modus operandi, no, not your default I guess habits and like life setup, you might not face impediments,
right?
But if you try,
set it up such that you don't.
Yeah, right, yeah, and that's a good point. And you likely set it up that way to avoid such pains.
Right.
But if you try pains, but if you try to change the derech or go somewhere else, that's when you face the pain. The yashar, though, can change at will. All right, so I'm going to start with, I'm in a different position than the way I want to, because the Meiri, I think, says what Oren is saying. So the Meiri, I think, says, this is telling a person to be zaris. Never had to translate it. I know. I never like zealous, right? What was it? Oh, yeah. Alacritus is the word that I also say, but I don't think there's a word for that. Like to have alacrity, right? I don't think alacritus is a word. I don't know. Sounds like something you get like some sort of like gum disease or something. The low leos atzal not to be lazy in them. Amar derech atzal klomer kashit start lelechas al ir when he needs to go to the city. Nase haderech hahu be'inav. Oh, hold on. Wait. Okay, maybe this is. I think I saw something else. Klomar kashit start lelechas when he needs to go to the city. Nase haderech hahu be'inav kiluhu gadur mikol sevivosav, but geder shel kotim. Then the path appears in his eyes to be fenced in on all sides with a fence of thorns. She'enu yachal latseis mimena, that he can't leave it. But the way of the Yesharim is slula in their eyes. Mufnis min ha'avanim shaba, cleared out of all the stones that are in it. Uvalaz. Yeah, I meant to look that up, but I didn't. I wasn't able to. I don't know what that is. Inyan hasolulos but here. Hold on. Maybe it was the rid. No, not the red.
That's the same mashal.
Yeah. I think the reason why I thought of the meiri is to leave the derech that he's on. I mean, he's on a derech, but he wants to go to some other city and he can't because it's fenced in. So he can't leave. Okay, so I think that's a good idea. Now let me show you. Is this the second week in a row? No, we're gonna do Rashi. Okay, second time this month. Okay, we're getting there. Derech atel k'misuchas chadek dome be'inav kilu hadrachim gedurim lefanav begeder chadakim. So that I think is this could also express what you're saying, but it's as if the paths are fenced in front of him with a geder of thorns. Mesuchas is geder kmo haser mesuchaso kotim. Okay, slula is kavusha umufta. So the slula is trampled, trodden, and emptied. Okay. So what I wanted to say is that I think this is talking to someone who is struggling with laziness, okay, and laziness as defined by Sadigon, which is that he finds the immediate pain to be an impediment. And I think the idea here, let me read one more interpretation. I don't know if mine is going to fit better with Rashi or the Rid. The Rid says, Derech Atel, Kach Nir Derech Atel, Le'atel. So this is how the derech seems to the atel, ki'ilu haisa malea kotim, as if it's filled with thorns. So that I'm picturing not a fence in front of him, but like thorns all over and brambles all over the path itself. And orach yesharim salula is misukelas umufunui mikol mikshal, is all this stumbling blocks have been removed. So I'm not sure which this fits in best with, but I'll say the idea, which is that one of the biggest impediments to that the lazy person, the impediment that the lazy person faces is reluctance to expose himself to the immediate pain, okay? But I think we've all had this experience. There are many things where the only impediment is getting started, Okay, I think many people, when they're studying or when they have a paper to write, that's like, or chore to do, it's the getting started, which is the difficult thing. And I think what this is telling you to do is, unlike, there are certain mitos that you have to like undo them psychologically. This one actually is something that I do, and we could debate this. I do think that you can actually train yourself to overcome laziness through, it's not through willpower, but you have to exert willpower to take the initial steps on the path and experience the pain and then realize that the pain goes away. Again, I'll use studying because that's something that I think we've all had. What was that?
Exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy, exactly. Yeah. So it's like when you need to study for something, if you can find a way to trick yourself into enduring the first 5 minutes of it, then you often find that, okay, well, now I'm going, or let's say exercise is another thing. This is one of the reasons why atomic habits or tiny habits, both of them come down to the strategy of taking the big habit and then shrinking it down to the smallest manageable size. In atomic habits, James Clear says that, if you, let's say you want to train yourself to go to the gym, right? So for the first whatever amount of time, do it for 1 minute. Right? Go to the gym for 1 minute, or let's say people are gonna be like, you're not gonna all go all the way to the gym. Say jogging, right? Put on your shoes and then take them off, right? Start by doing that, then put on your shoes and jog for 1 minute, and then and then go on. So what you're doing is you have this like you catastrophize and magnify and amplify the fear of the pain in your mind. But if you force yourself to just experience that immediate pain, then your psyche realizes, oh, like, well, now I'm in it and it's not as bad as I feared, and you can gradually expand upon that. So I don't know if that fits in better with the Rashi mashal. The way I'm picturing it is, if you've ever walked through a forest and there's a path of like, sharp, branches or whatever, if you power through that like thin fence, you can just get to the other side. And does it scratch you? Yeah, it scratches you, but then you just get through the other side. So that's one mashal. Maybe the other mashal is, the only way to get rid of the thorns is you have to trot over them. And once you trot over them, you end up with a well-trodden path. So I think that's how I'm taking this. And again, I generally speaking, I think the biggest mistake people make when they're talking about changing mitos is they could do it through willpower alone. And I'm not saying that this is through willpower alone. I'm saying that you need the ingredient of the willpower. At the end of the day, the Atel is going to have to train himself to being able to face immediate pain. So there is a whole art to structuring your habit change trajectory to be able to like strategically expose yourself to bits of pain, but you are going to have to face that pain, and the more I'm arguing that the more you do it, the more you realize that your psyche blows things out of proportion. Yeah, Isaac?
Just the thought that I had about thorns.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we didn't specifically discuss this. I think thorns are like basically just pain. It's not anything where you get an actual injury.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's a good application for the mashal. Right. Just scratches or whatever. It's not daggers or something like that. That'll like wound you. Right. Okay. So, any questions on that idea? Okay, so at this point, I don't know, this is going to go in multiple directions. So Shadal says something that, okay, we have a Shadal on Mishlei, okay? Very rare. I get the impression Shadal did not write a commentary on Mishlei, like per se, but probably this is from notes, because it's like, if you look through the chapters, 3 comments on chapter 14, 2 comments on chapter 13, so we lucked out here, okay? And usually he just comments like on the grammar, but this he actually gives us a parish. Derek Atel, that is a typo, probably. Hold on. Unless that is a
Parish.
Yeah, parish, right? Okay, hold on a second. Gotta do my civic duty. Not sure whether this is a typo or part of his parish, his commentary.
Maybe we'll see once we talk about Machshava.
He does talk about machshava, right? I'm still not sure though. Derech atel k'mesuchas chadek. Derech atel he b'dimyono malei kotzim. So the derech of the lazy person in his imagination is filled with kotzim, all derech on the path. Amar atel al derech. Al derech amar atel ari bachutz. So this is like one of my favorite pasukim about the lazy person. The lazy person says, Ari bachutz, there's a lion outside. B'sof rechovos eratzeach. I'll be slaughtered in the streets. right? It uses the lashon ritzicha by an animal, which is not proper lashon. So this is about how the lazy person will fabricate in his imagination all of these catastrophizing, like all these like horrific events that will happen to him if he does this, And the modern equivalent is I can't go out of my house or otherwise I might get hit by a plane, right? That's not I might injure myself. I might get hit like some crazy, What was that?
It ain't not so.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Statistically, we've seen an uptick. Okay. Ki dimyono v'atzluso magdilim be'enav kol davar hamisnaged lahatzlachas ma'asehu v'ayde kein yoshev bato. Beautifully expressed, because his imagination and his laziness magnify in his eyes any opposition to the success of his actions, and through that he sits and is idle. Aval hayisharim asher nafsham chashka lasos atov, but the yisharim whose souls yearn to do good, and that's in line with Rבינו Yona's definition of yashar, which is that their nature and their minds are geared towards seeking of good and doing it. So in other words, they've trained themselves to seek the good. So enom nisogim ahor, they do not recoil back mipachad ra meduma, on account of imaginary harm. Ach nir lehem shedarham salula, but to them it appears that the path is paved or smooth or without obstacle. Vein ba mishal. Zos gam das Rashi bekoter milav. So he says that that's what Rashi is saying. So I think that's just a wonderfully expressed way to say it, and it also goes with Isaac's thing about his it's in his imagination. And that's all it goes with my interpretation, is that you have to realize that the pain is in the imagination. It's not. There is a real. There might be a real pain. Like when you start exercising, you are going to experience using your muscles in a way that you don't use them. But the psychological pain is the real impediment. Okay, now, next, I want to do Rבינו Yona, whose comments mystified me. And then I saw someone who opened it up in a way that this might be new methodology. Okay, I don't want to raise our expectations here. So Rבינו Yona says like this: Derech alto k'msuchas chadek. Like a fence of thorns on the path that a person cannot pass. I think that's like Rashi. It's like blocking his way, not on the sides. So too, the atzel can only go backwards, but not forwards. That's another interesting thing. To go from mida to mida. So that was when I was my eyebrow first one. I was like, what? To go from mida to mida. The orach yisharim salula erich or orach yisharim, as David would say, behafach derech atzel, the opposite of an atzel. I don't know what he means by erech here. I don't know if he's erech or arach. He has, the measure, the worth of the orach yisharim, or
directly opposite.
Right, unless he's saying that right, is the opposite of the derech atzel. Now, ubir ha'inyan hazeh b'sharim. Now he says the explanation of this matter is in the gates. I assume that would mean the Shari Tshuva, because what other gates is he talking about? But the footnote doesn't say, and the footnote always quotes the Shari Tshuva when he does this. So I don't know if that's an omission on the editor's part or what. And then he says this: Yishrei Lev, okay, upright heart, Ad Hena Shar Halev. Up until this point is the gate of the heart. Now, does anyone remember where the gate of the heart began? No. Okay, me neither. All right, so that might mean that it began a while ago. I think vaguely in my mind, I do remember something like that. I actually meant to look at it before I came. Sha'ar Halev. So let's just check. Oh, sorry, I'm going on. Yeah. All right, no. So he didn't say then. Okay, fine. So I don't know when the Sha'ar Halev began. So I'm looking at this video and I'm like, what is he saying and what is he doing with the pasuk? Okay, so I did not know. Then I read our new friend, Rav Sheshes, ben Yitzchak Gerondi. Okay, so just to reiterate what he does that no one else does, his goal is to explain the sequencing of the pasukim, okay, and to give an explanation that is in line with that. Okay, so I read this, and this is what I read this, and I was like lights are going off here. Okay, so I haven't worked it out yet though. Derech atel k'msuchas chadek ba'avur. He's going to say a lot of stuff, and we're going to have to differentiate in our minds between how he's interpreting this pasuk and then other methodology. Ba'avur ki mitchilas haparsha v'ad ata diber be'inyan tikun hamidos. Since what do you say? Since from the beginning of the parsha until now, he spoke about midos, about correction of midos, improvement of midos, derech klal, in a general way. lahoros kitovu lalamed hamusar, to say that it is good to teach musar, ulami roy lalamed, and to whom it is proper to teach, ulami eno roy lalamed, and who it is not proper to teach, ve'ich yiknu hamusar, and how musar is how they acquire musar, umaha sibos hamona ososo, and what causes prevent it, umaha osos v'hasimanim hamorim al osan she'enan ru'im letochachas, and what are the signs and osos and simanim, what other word? Symptoms, right? Symptoms and signs that indicate that point to those who are not roy to rebuke. Hakol kasher bal b'psukim b'parsha azos im devarim acherim hanigrarim achar inyanim ela kasher izkarti. All of these psukim in this parsha come with other matters that are dragged along with these topics, as I mentioned, meaning there are side topics. Chasam ata ha-parsha. Now he's concluding the parsha. Okay, so like Rבינו, this is what I was like, oh, maybe this is what Rבינו Yona is talking about.
Are they both from Germany?
Yeah, maybe they hung out in cafes.
Is he a Talmud of his?
Not that we know of. Yeah, not that we know of, and we don't exactly know who he is or exactly when he was, but yeah, but maybe. Although I also don't even know his style well enough to know if he would quote Rבינו Yona explicitly if that were the case. It's funny, there are meforshim who what we would call plagiarize, and then ones who quote. So say like it was just funny. Someone pointed out to me, I was writing about the Behor Shor, and the Chizkuni just like will just in our eyes like just rip off, like the footnotes. I'll say this is taken from the Behor Shor, this is taken from the Behor Shor, but that was acceptable back then. Other Mefarshim will quote people. All right, so anyway, so he concludes this parsha of Amar saying Ki hu hora b'hanyanim v'hadrachim haniskarim umishi asel behem lo yasik osam drachim, that he's now taught all of the drachim, the good drachim, and someone who's atzel in those drachim, lo yasik osam drachim, will not attain them. Ki yihi darcho k'derech ha'atzel, because his way will be the way like the way of the atzel. Shiur lo kilu yesh mesuchas kotzim saviv ledarcho lo yichol lechaspa, that it will appear to him, the derech will appear to him as though it's fenced with thorns around it, around his path, and he can't walk on it. Okay, now if he hasn't finished yet. Okay, so but he's trying to contextualize this in the previous parsha. Now he says like this: V'orach yisharim salula hayisharim him hazrizim hakonim tchuna tova lanafsham. So he says yisharim are the people who are alacritous in acquiring good character traits for their souls. Yitaknu midosehem, they correct their midos, v'yikachu musar, and they take musar, utnaim lahem hatochachas, and rebuke is sweet to them, is pleasant to them. Kidarham slula be'ene ein monea. I think this should probably be be'enehem, that their way is smooth in their eyes. Ein monea, without any obstacle. V'chafetz Hashem biadam yitzlach. Chafetz Hashem biadam yitzlach. Okay, God's desires in their hands to succeed. Okay, so you've got two people. Okay, you've got the atzel. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this now. Okay, he's going to say it more explicitly later on. This is what Isaac said that this is not about. Okay, which Isaac is entitled to say that. Isaac was saying that this is about the decisions of the atzel in general. He's saying that this is about the decisions that he faces in improving his midos. Okay, and where is he getting this from? This is the genius part. So he's getting it from the prior pasukim before, but also this answers the question, how is the yashar the opposite of the atzel? Okay, saying the yashar is someone who cultivates his midos, and the atzel is someone who doesn't. So in a context of, let's say, talking about money making, then you would go atzel versus charutz, someone who's diligent in his work. If you're going with thinking, then you go atzel opposite with chacham. But if you're going with midos development, then atzel and yashar. Okay, the yashar is someone who's like always working on his midos, and the atzel is someone who's not. So I think that just like is a really good answer to that question. Okay, so he's going to go on. Harbe pamim yadaber b'sefer zeh al inyan ha'atzla v'hazrizus v'hakol b'ta'am. It talks about laziness in many places and zrizus in many places in this book, and all of them with reason. I should hope so. B'chol makom yazkir osam achar inyanim acherim. It mentions. Oh, sorry. It says like this. It talks about laziness and zrizus in many places in this book after other topics. V'hakavana b'hazkiram, and the intent in mentioning laziness and zrizus, klomar lios adam zaris b'inyanim haniskarim, is that a person should be zaris in those topics that were mentioned. V'lo yis'atel bahem klal, and you should not be lazy in them at all. Okay, so in other words, this is the methodological thing, is if you find a random pasuk about laziness, then you should read it as meta commentary on implementing the advice that was given in the previous subject. So again, let's say you find something about lashon hara, right? And then you see a pasuk about laziness. So on the surface, there's no connection. So he's saying that you're going to face a laziness zrizus dichotomy in implementing the advice I just gave you. Okay, so that's just an interesting derech here. Hine ki ad ata, until now, lo haisa hakavana l'daber biprate hamidos. Okay, now he's going to speak about where we are in the book. Until now, he has not spoken about, his intent was not to speak about the particular midos or the particulars of midos. Ki b'parsha hakodemes lazos asher hischil ba Mishlei Shlomo ben Chacham Yisamach Av. So in the parsha before this, which began with chapter 10, Mishlei Shlomo ben Chacham Yisamach Av. Okay, so that's what I call the beginning of Mishlei proper. So in that parsha, pasach ba b'inyan kanos hamamun. So the topic there was how to get money and how to conduct yourself before you get it and after you get it. Okay, so there he's just dropping a bomb of this was the subject of chapter 10. Okay, and that area. He also gave advice. He's just borrowing from Koheles Lashon. He gave advice to those who were not zoche to become rich. How should they conduct themselves in their parnasa and hanhaga? And then now he mentions, the opinion of many people of Amru, saying Tov Nikla ve'evedlo, better someone who is lowly. I think he's saying better isn't Nikla. I don't know how he reads Nikla ve'evedlo. Okay, I think that's a lot of machlokes on how to read that. Ad sofa parsha until the end of the parsha. The alpha pi shenichnesu b'parsha hi inyanim rabim b'midos. Even though there are many topics here that have to do with midos, he views seder hadvarim l'daber aleim agav gorar. The organization of the subjects brought them to speak about it like by happenstance. The ata b'parsha azos, and now this parsha asher hiskil ba ben chacham musar av, which began with ben chacham musar av. Where was that? Was that in our chapter? 13. Okay, yeah, ben chacham musar av. Yeah, right. Okay, so this is another beginning of a chapter. That's when it starts talking about the tikkun hamidos. Okay, I think we sensed that was where it had a bunch of psukim about no, maybe not. Maybe I'm not remembering. All the Mishlei goes together. So what I find interesting here is, you have, check this out. So I've always said that you have basically, three huge divisions in Mishlei, but a couple of subdivisions. You have chapters 1 through 9, which starts off Mishlei Shlomo ben David, Melech Yisrael. Then you've got book 2, which is Mishlei Shlomo ben Chacham Yisamach Av. That's from chapter 10 through 24. Then you've got book 3, which is chapter 25. Gam Ele Mishlei Shlomo Asher Hetigo Anshe Chizkiah Melech Yehuda. Okay, but what he's doing is he's saying, how does Shlomo signal the beginning of a section with the phrase ben Chacham? Okay, or that is another type of thing. Ben Chacham Musar Av. Okay, and then check out our pasuk. Our pasuk is 19. Derech Atzel Kimsuch Chaskadik, and then the next pasuk Ben Chacham Yisamach Av. Okay, so he's saying that there are these subsections that start off with the Ben Chacham thing. Okay, and he's saying, what is this section going to be about? Ben Chacham Musar Av. Now so this previous section was talking about the correction of midos. Upasach b'limud hamusar v'hora esmi roy l'lamed v'esmi she'eno roy l'lamed v'nimshuch ha'inyanim v'hizkir b'hem inyanim midos v'chulam al pi seder. So in other words, 10 through 13. Up until 13 was about money and managing your money. Okay. Then 13 Ben Chacham until now is teaching Musar and who not to rebuke and who to rebuke and how to take Musar. And that concludes with our pasuk about the Atzel. Aval mikan ve'elach yachal ledaber al hamidos. Now, here and on, it's talking about midos bifrat in particular. Ledakdek alehin, and to be like to go into depth into the subtleties about them. Ulahazkir hadeos kulam. And to mention all of the midos. Hakol kasher yisbar lefanav Ezra Hashem yisbarach. Okay, so I just think it's really interesting that you know, Rabbi, there was a summer, you know, Rabbi Moskowitz, my Rebbe, you know, he would often change his derech halimud in the middle of the summer or in the beginning of the summer and try out new drachim. So there was a time period where we, you know, most of the style that we've done is this style where you do one pasuk and you go in depth. There was one or two summers where like he was intent on just getting like clusters of psukim and the main idea in the cluster. And I hated it. You know, I was like, we're not going into depth on anything, but he was trying to get these superstructures within Mishlei, and we didn't have any commentaries that like really did that. Because the most you get is Rבינו Yona, who will explain the association from one pasuk to the other. And then occasionally you'll get these like allusions, like in R Rבינו Yona, to, oh, we're closing a gate and we're starting a new gate, you know? But Rabbi Moskowitz would love to see this Rav Yitzchak, Sheshes ben Yitzchak. I forget which one it is. Sheshes ben Yitzchak, Yitzchak ben Sheshes, you know? So I don't know. Like, I'm excited about this because I've been looking for this for years. And we should now realize that, at least according to his theory, we've only been talking about midos either in happenstance or from the stance of like becoming a person who works on the midos. But now we're going to transition into particular midos. So that's like a methodological idea. And you get this methodological nugget about the random psukim about laziness. That if you see a pasuk about laziness that seemingly doesn't belong, it is meta Mishlei commentary on what you just learned and telling you got to be diligent and not be lazy when you're doing implementing what we just learned. And again, it works out perfectly here because here it's yashar and atzel. So if a yashar is someone who's characterized by working on his midos or by being drawn to good midos, then it makes sense that it's being compared with the atzel. Yeah, David.
I have now written our pasuk with this in this context.
Sure.
And I think it will both in our pasuk and it's also part of the whole sefer we're just doing.
Yeah.
Insofar as being mochiach someone, knowing if they are an atzel and they're
Yeah.
I guess kind of like what Warren was saying, of like there's no way, like there's no other path. There's no other path for them. Like the Torah class is gonna go nowhere. Or if you're talking to someone who's Yashar, then all the different types of Torah we're just talking about, they're actually like possible and it's worth even trying.
Okay, good. You are rebuking is an atzel or a yashar, and I'll add, and I'll say, and rebuke accordingly. Okay, meaning not that you should refrain from rebuking an atzel, which is very interesting because atzel, there are Mishleic fools that you should not rebuke, like a ksil or a lace or a rasha, but you shouldn't refrain from rebuking an atzel. But you should craft your rebuke in a manner that he can hear and implement it, given his atzlos. Yeah, Ezra, did you have a thing? Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's a good application here. Okay. I didn't look at the Meir's derech Nister, but I bet he has one. Let's look at that. Yeah.
In Rashi, the idea of going backwards. What
oh yeah. That's a good point. Also, right. Was Rashi said that or Rבינו Yona? Rבינו Yona said he could only go backwards, not forward. Yeah, right. Okay, so Rבינו Yona mentions he can only go backwards and not forwards. Yeah, right. Yeah, you want to say?
I mean, I would think that like if you've already done something, then you already know how to redo it, and you know that you have confidence that you can do it with little conflict. With going forwards means that it's new territory, something you're unfamiliar with.
Right.
So it's more likely problems are going to come up that you haven't dealt with before.
Right. Yeah.
Just in the mushal, you've already trodden down
right
thorns.
Right. So that actually supports my idea as well, which is, so let's say this. So he the atzel is intimidated by future pain he hasn't yet experienced, so he'll either remain in the default mode or retreat from the pain. Okay. But within this, there is there's hope. Okay, he can look at past experiences where he was intimidated by the pain, see how he overcame it through experiencing what's on the other side, okay, and reassuring himself that this future pain might be like that, you know. And again, like it's, you know, again, reasoning with the Atzel is very difficult because he also rationalizes. But if you have, let's use the studying example again, is if you really don't want to start a project, and then you remind yourself of how many times you faced this and then started, and then once you get into work mode, then you're good. So then you could utilize that to propel yourself forward, you know, use the past experience. Yeah. Okay. Really good, good chidushim about the Atzel. So basically we have, just to summarize, you have Isaac's idea about the life of laziness as a life of conflict. And unless you get yourself out of this midah, then you're just going to face conflict after conflict after conflict and pain. Unlike other middos where they might not come up. Then you have Ezra's idea, which is that if you're taking a derech that was set up for you by the Atzel, who may or may not be yourself, you should realize that it's going to have a lot of impediments on the way and pain, because that's how he sets things up. Whereas the Yashar is not going to have that. You have Oren's idea, which is that the Atzel will default to the what's comfortable, and he won't have that flexibility of changing drachim. Even so, in other words, he might convince himself that he's flexible, but in reality, he's only going within his comfort zone, but he's not going to be able to easily move outside of his comfort zone. Then you have my idea, which is that this is giving you a derech to overcome your laziness, which is to train yourself through exposure therapy and to realize, like Shadal said, the imaginariness of the pain that you're experiencing, and realize like, oh, it's not nearly as bad as I thought. And all it takes is to start and break through the initial brambles and then trod your path. Then you have R Sheshes' idea about the structure of Mishlei, and that this is meta musar on implementing other musar, and the subject matters here, and then Rבינו Yona about also how you can like utilize the past examples to learn going forward, and then David's idea about giving a rebuke. So a lot of ideas here. Okay, really nice pasuk. Okay, and then I guess next week we're starting a new section according to some. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Thank you.